Making headlines tonight. More provinces announce plans to reopen their schools, but the Education Ministry says no decisions have been made. EAC News talks to two quarantined travellers who say they're getting completely ripped off. And making eye contact for the very first time, two conjoined twins are finally face-to-face after a marathon operation. This is the Daily Roundup on the EAC News Channel. A very good evening to you. I'm Andrew Barnes-Roberts. More of the kingdom's schools have announced plans to reopen. The international school in Siem Reap became the first to open its doors on Monday. Koh Kong provincial authorities now say they'll follow suit on Thursday, with Priya Sihanouk planning to open on Monday for those who are due to graduate. But as EAC News reporter Romeo explains, it appears these provinces and schools are all jumping the gun.
There's been no formal comment from the Ministry of Education, but it has told EAC News that there's been no change to the original plan. That is for the provinces to simply gather data as to which areas have low infection rates of COVID-19 and which schools can possibly reopen. The ministry says it expects that information by the middle of September, and only then will decisions be made about which schools can reopen and where. But on Monday already, the International School of Siem Reap confirmed to EAC News that they had reopened for high school students with 2 days of face-to-face classes per week. Hours later, the Koh Kong Provincial Authority and Provincial Department of Education announced that some of their schools would reopen on Thursday. Priya Sihanouk has also decided to go it alone, reopening 5 schools next Monday. Some in Phnom Penh are also hard at work cleaning up, expecting to reopen in the next couple of weeks.
While a handful of schools reopen in the coming days, the message from the Education Ministry is clear. No decisions have been made which schools can reopen, and no decisions will be made at least the middle of the month. It wants to see data about communities and their infection rates before any school, anywhere, will get a green light to reopen. Raya Soko, EAC News, Phnom Penh.
Hopes are high that Cambodia's long-awaited tourism restart could be underway from November. Just over 70% of the country's targeted population has now been fully vaccinated, meaning herd immunity is not very far off. The tourism industry has been particularly hard hit by the pandemic, with international arrivals down 93% year-on-year across the first 7 months of 2021. But it seems there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Back in April, the Prime Minister signed a 3-phase national tourism roadmap for 2021 to 2025. It also covered Siem Reap's touristic strategies for a post-pandemic recovery. At that time, Minister of Tourism Thong Khon asked the Prime Minister to consider reopening the borders for vaccinated tourists by the end of the year. The ministry and private sectors have since been working together toward that goal. Just last month, Hyatt Regency General Manager Herman Camp, who is part of the working group, told EAC News that November was the target date for a tourism restart, although a final decision would need to be made by the royal government. The president of the Cambodian Association of Travel Agents, Chai Sivlin, has called on the kingdom to take hold of its vaccination progress and resume travels for vaccinated tourists. She has praised the country's efforts in fighting the pandemic, especially its vaccination rate, with Cambodians second only to Singapore in Southeast Asia. Her suggestion is also to let fully vaccinated travelers in by November. Yuri Matosco, EAC News, Phnom Penh.
The Ministry of Health has recorded 511 new cases of COVID-19 within the past 24 hours. That is slightly down on Monday's number, which was the highest since mid-August. Daily cases are also outpacing new recoveries for a 10th straight day. 487 patients were discharged overnight, 11 patients died. The numbers mean the kingdom's active cases continue to climb. The country's healthcare workers are now treating 2,733 COVID-19 patients. The kingdom's total COVID-19 cases now stand at 96,339. The death toll is at 1,981. The total number of patients successfully treated is now 91,618. More quarantined foreign nationals are complaining about the standard of their stays at some of the capital's designated quarantine hotels. Foreigners are being charged a standard $10 per meal, and while some hotels are delivering decent service, others appear to be taking complete advantage. One foreign national who arrived in Cambodia last week spoke exclusively to EAC News reporter Romeo.
Daryl Barnum arrived from China a week ago. He initially booked at Soka Hotel for the alternative state quarantine package, but had to cancel that after encountering problems with his flights being canceled and rescheduled. After landing at Phnom Penh International, his designated quarantine hotel was the Aria Central Hotel. He opted for an upgrade of his quarantine at a cost of $182, but says for the past week, he's been getting little more than bread and milk for breakfast. Certainly not justifying the $10 he's being charged. He says he's also being overcharged for bottled water.
Try to be somewhat responsive, but I have mentioned many times these meals are lacking. And they said they will try to improve them, and they don't. Also, it's required, a normal diet is required about 2,000 calories. This is known, and that the meals are so subpar, they're not even 1,000 calories. So in effect, we're being starved and dehydrated. We don't get enough water, and we still don't get enough foods. So I don't understand. We're being held captive, and we still cannot get anything but what we're at the mercy of the hotel.
Barnum says his family in Cambodia have tried to send him food, but the hotel does not allow deliveries. He says the hotel only allows him to order food through them at inflated prices. EAC News spoke to another traveler under quarantine at Olympia City Hotel. He also wanted to book at one of the 4 ASQ hotels, but they were all full. He has also complained about the food, but luckily for him, the hotel is allowing his family to deliver more. Both him and Barnum have expressed frustration about being locked in a hotel room for 14 days when they could be out working. Barnum has secured a job at a local school. As a first-time traveler to Cambodia, he says he's looking forward to contributing and learning more in the kingdom. His only wish right now is for a meal that justifies the $10 he's being charged.
Aria Central Hotel is just one of many receiving complaints from its quarantine guests, especially when it comes to food. EAC News contracted hotel management about Barnum's grievances. Their only comment: "We are sad to hear the complaints from our guests." Rhea Soko, EAC News, Phnom Penh.
The United Nations in Cambodia says it will continue its support for people with disabilities. It has also praised the kingdom's response to COVID-19. The UN in Cambodia released what it calls an information note on Monday, pledging its active support for the government as it works to improve the lives of some of society's most vulnerable people. The UN says people with disabilities face multiple challenges, such as inequality and discrimination in access to education, healthcare, employment, social protection, justice, and public transport. 4.9% of the Cambodian population over the age of 5 suffer with some form of disability. The UN in Cambodia says in addition to the health sector, several UN agencies are focusing on the secondary impacts of the pandemic and are contributing specific support in other areas such as social protection, education, and employment. It says it has provided technical support to the government to ensure equitable and accessible social protection programs for people with disabilities. As a result, almost 60,000 have had access to the National Cash Transfer Program during the pandemic. A further 30,000 children with disabilities will benefit from 760,000 home learning packages currently distributed to those in grades 1 and 2. Secretary-General of Cambodia's Disability Action Council, M. Chan Makara, told EAC News that he welcomes the UN statement and looks forward to continued cooperation with such a valued international partner. He says he hopes the UN will help improve the quality of life for people with disabilities, especially while the kingdom recovers from the pandemic. The Taliban has claimed victory over rebels in the northeastern valley of Panjshir, saying it is now in full control of Afghanistan. The group says it will also make an announcement soon on the formation of a new government. Members of the Taliban were filmed raising their unpopular flag in front of the gate to the Panjshir provincial governor's compound. Days of fighting have come to an end in the valley, with the Taliban promising there'll be no reprisals for the region's people. The National Resistance Front of Afghanistan, led by Panjshiri leader Ahmed Massoud, has not conceded defeat, though. Its leader has taken to social media to say he's safe and in hiding. Only at the weekend, he said he was ready for peace talks. The group now says it will continue fighting. Taliban spokesperson Zabihullah Mujahid addressed a media briefing in Kabul late on Monday. He says Massoud and former Vice President Amullah Saleh have fled to neighboring Tajikistan. Mujahid says the Taliban's focus is now on the formation of a new government and that an announcement would be made soon. He also said women were back at work in the health and education sectors. How they are back might raise some eyebrows, though. Pictures circulating on social media in the country show university classrooms divided into sections for male and female students. What happens in universities and schools across the country is being closely watched by governments around the world. Some Western countries have said aid and formal recognition of the Taliban would depend on how they run the country, including their treatment of women and girls. When they last ruled Afghanistan, girls were banned from school and women from university and work. The Taliban now says women's rights will be honored in accordance with Islamic law, and it would seem these pictures indicate exactly what they have in mind. A more pressing issue for the Taliban, though, is the state of the country's healthcare system. The WHO says hundreds of medical facilities are at risk of imminent closure because donors who provide the financing are not allowed to deal with the Taliban. The WHO's emergency director for the Eastern Mediterranean, Rick Brennan, says urgent supplies, equipment, and financing are being arranged. He says the WHO is liaising with Qatar for medical deliveries in the next week, now that Kabul's main airport has reopened for a limited number of flights. Now for a look at some other news making headlines around the world this Tuesday, the 7th of September.
Mexican security forces have come down heavy on a new migrant caravan bound for the United States border. Armed with riot shields and batons, they intercept and block the passage of around 400 people from Central America, Haiti, and Venezuela. Several people were arrested. Hundreds of migrants, many accompanied by children or carrying babies in their arms, fled for the banks of the river Huitzila. The Mexican National Guard and National Institute of Migration have been accused of using excessive force. Local priest and migrant advocate Heyman Vasquez described the early morning swoop as an inhumane and cruel abuse of power that spread fear and alarm. The Mexican government recently condemned acts of violence captured on a video against a previous caravan, but authorities continued their crackdown, with President Andrés Manuel López Obrador saying he wants undocumented migrants to stay in southern Mexico.
A missing 3-year-old boy has been safely rescued after spending 3 nights out in the open. Anthony A.J. Elpalak from New South Wales Hunter Region is mute and autistic and was reported missing 3 days ago. He was found drinking water from a creek in the town of Putty, around 150 kilometers northwest of Sydney. Questions are being raised about the case, though. Missing for a full 3 days, he was found barely 500 meters from his home. Police say the little boy was in good spirits and was smiling when he was found. He is being treated for dehydration and some minor cuts and bruises.
And America's epidemic of gun violence continues. This is footage from the scene of its latest mass shooting in Lakeland, Florida. Police found a 40-year-old man, a 30-year-old woman, and a 3-month-old boy dead from gunshot wounds in one of the homes. The family dog had also been shot. In the home next door, deputies found the body of a 62-year-old grandmother. An 11-year-old girl had also been shot multiple times but survived. The shooter has been identified as former Marine Corporal Brian James Riley, who had no connections to the victims. A veteran of the US wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, he was working as a security guard in Orlando. His girlfriend says he's suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder and is now in police custody.
Stay with the Daily Roundup. A look at your sports news coming up after the break. EAC News fully supports the royal government of Cambodia's preventative and administrative measures against COVID-19. But we need you to play your part in helping bring the 20 February community transmission event to an end. Wash your hands regularly, sanitize wherever possible. Keep an eye on your body temperature. Use the Stop COVID QR code and maintain a safe social distance. But above all, please, 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 wear a mask. Only together can we beat COVID-19. EART's Cambodia's audience is growing. Our YouTube channel now has 150,000 verified subscribers. To mark the milestone, we've received the Silver Creator Award from YouTube, given to channels with over 100,000 subscribers. YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki says the award celebrates EART's Cambodia's hard work and incredible achievement. She says not only has EART's Cambodia brought a unique voice and style to the world, but has also created valuable connections and built a community along the way. The next milestone we're going for is 1 million subscribers, and we'd really like that Gold Creator Award. So if you're not already a subscriber, head to www.youtube.com/eartscambodia. Subscribers get all the latest breaking news and updates from Cambodia in English. We'll see you there. If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of EART's Cambodia's platforms and channels: YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eartscambodia.com. Join me, Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear. Argentina's football squad are back home in training after Sunday night's fiasco in Brazil. Their World Cup qualifier was called off 5 minutes into the match because 4 of their players had lied on their immigration forms to dodge quarantine. No date has been set for a rematch, but Argentina's next scheduled fixture is against Bolivia on Thursday. Aston Villa duo Emiliano Martinez and Emi Buendia, as well as Spurs duo Christian Romero and Giovanni Lo Celso, have all been accused of quarantine dodging. Brazil's federal police say they have opened a formal inquiry. The country's health regulator, Anvisa, says Brazilian rules clearly state that travelers who have been in the UK, South Africa, or India during the previous 14 days are forbidden from entering the country unless they are Brazilian citizens or have permanent residency. In response, the Argentine Football Association says Martinez and Buendia have been released from the national team. They will not take part in Thursday's qualifier against Bolivia. It has also released Lo Celso and Romeo, saying they are out of the game and can return to their club in the UK. FIFA has yet to announce a new date for the Argentina-Brazil qualifier. Valtteri Bottas is to leave Mercedes and race for Ferrari-powered Alfa Romeo. The 9-times Grand Prix winner has signed a multi-year deal from 2022. The Finn's departure clears the way for George Russell to leave Williams and join 7-times world champion Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes in what will be an all-British lineup.
Valtteri Bottas replaced his retiring compatriot and 2007 world champion Kimi Raikkonen at Alfa Romeo. He says he's relishing the opportunity to help lead the team forward up the grid. The 32-year-old joined Mercedes from Williams in 2017 after the abrupt retirement of 2016 world champion Nico Rosberg. He says he's proud of what he's achieved alongside Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes. The German automaker has won the last 7 drivers' and constructors' championships, but Alfa Romeo fancy their chances. Alfa boss Frederic Vasseur, who last worked with Bottas when the Finn was coming through the Junior Series, says the driver has shown he's a strong team player and is in the right man to help Alfa Romeo Racing make a step forward towards the front of the grid. Mercedes paid tribute to the Finn, conceding it hadn't been an easy process letting him go. Team boss Toto Wolff says Bottas will leave with huge goodwill from every single member of the team, and he will forever be part of the Mercedes family.
Brazil's soccer great Pele says he's on the mend after undergoing surgery to remove a tumor from his colon. The 80-year-old has not said whether the tumor was malignant, but took to social media late on Monday to say he was feeling good. The Albert Einstein Hospital in Sao Paulo says it is keeping Pele in intensive care, but he is expected to be transferred into a private ward later on Tuesday. It says the tumor has been sent for tests. The statement came just hours after a Brazilian news outlet said Pele had spent 6 days in hospital after going in for his annual medical. It also came days after Pele refuted reports he'd fainted. The football icon posted on Monday that he had undergone surgery at the weekend to remove what he called a suspicious lesion from his colon, and that the tumor had been identified during his annual checkup. He is expected to make a full recovery, with doctors saying the whole tumor has been removed. All right, let's take a look at what the weather's going to be up to tomorrow. And finally, twin girls born just over a year ago have finally been able to see each other for the very first time. They were born conjoined at the back of their heads, but have been successfully separated after more than 12 hours of surgery. Face to face for the very first time, and not quite sure what to make of each other. The twin girls, whose names have been withheld from the media, were born conjoined at the back of their head. It took doctors a year to figure out how to separate them in an operation billed as an Israeli first. They were on the operating table for more than 12 hours at the Soroka Medical Center.
We're just finishing the twins separation procedure. It has gone extremely well. I'm delighted how well the whole team's done. It's an excellent team here, and it's been a real pleasure to be a part of it.
There was sheer joy in the operating theatre as the final stitch was made. The little sisters are reportedly doing fine, but will be recuperating for several weeks as they adjust to life with eye contact. Thanks for watching the Daily Roundup here on the EAC News Channel. More breaking news and updates from our website, head to www.e-artscambodia.com. You'll also find EAC News on Telegram and at your favorite app store. More from the EAC News team in the Daily Roundup tomorrow night at 8. I'll see you then.